Hi, I am really honored to be here today, and especially in front of the Supreme Court with such a history. And I want to start out by saying that I think our forefathers are looking down here and saying, WTF is going on down there. This is really a travesty. I will tell you now how I got involved in this. In 1998, my family and I were vacationing in Maui. And I vividly recall my then 16-year-old son running up to me on a street corner and saying, Mom, I just heard that cell phones can cause brain tumors. And I said, well, then your dad's definitely going to get one. And then I saw the real concern on his face, and I said, but Zach, if this was true, our government wouldn't allow this product to be marketed and sold without being tested and this not causing cancer. Well, think again, Mom. We have a great injustice being done here. A decade later, after that trip in Hawaii, I watched my seemingly healthy 56-year-old husband have a grand mal seizure in the middle of the night. Well, 45 minutes, his face and body contorted. We ended up going by ambulance to the emergency room, and he was told within an hour that he had a large mass in his right frontal lobe. Days later, Ted Kennedy had the same exact thing happen. And the irony was that our son, Zach, the one who was 16 and mentioned this to me, had worked for Senator Kennedy in his private office. He came to me during my husband's craniotomy and he said, Mom, I have to talk to you about something. I said, what else can you possibly tell me? And he said, the Kennedys feel that Ted's cell phone was the reason for his brain tumor. And I was flabbergasted. I said, no, this can't be. Children are using them. I said, this just can't be. So, my husband was an early adopter of cell phones. He started using one in the mid-'80s when they first came out. He used it for business purposes. It was always glued to the right side of his head, exactly where the tumor grew. And I started researching this, and I was appalled by what I found online. I would stay up all night, and I'd find that, there was a 280% increased risk of glioma, deadly brain tumors, in those who used a cell phone 30 minutes a day. So I sent my husband's medical records and his cell phone records to... Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I sent my husband's cell phone records and medical records to experts around the world, and they all got back to me and said that he was the poster boy, unfortunately, for the cell phone brain tumor connection. 3 months after Alan's craniotomy, I found myself sitting in front of Congress testifying at a House Oversight Committee on cell phones and health. And I haven't shut up since. I've learned far more than I ever imagined possible. I learned that there was no pre-market safety testing on cell phones, a ubiquitous device that even children are using daily. I learned that there's excellent peer-reviewed published science linking wireless radiation not only to cancer but to infertility, to damage to fetuses, electrosensitivity, and so much more. And I also learned that children are most susceptible to this radiation. In light of the recent U.S. NTP study, which found that brain tumors and tumors near the heart in laboratory animals that were exposed to wireless radiation, the American Academy of Pediatrics continues to reinforce their recommendations that parents should limit the use of cell phones by children and teens. But how many parents are aware of this? We really need our government to back us up on this, otherwise people are not going to listen. So the FCC is the government agency that was chosen to set the safety standards for wireless devices, but they have no scientific expertise. When I testified to Congress, the FCC testified next to me, and Julius Knapp of the Office of Engineering and Technology stated, we don't have the expertise to do this, so they hire outside companies. Well, these companies are not independent. Industry is involved with these companies that are setting these standards, which are not biologically based and need to be. So also, there's a revolving door at the FCC and Telecom. And Telecom has admitted that they meet with the FCC 500 times a year. We try to get appointments and we cannot meet with them. Experts cannot meet with them. Experts reach out. People like Jim Turner write letters. They don't get responses. Harvard's Norm Alster, in his recent book, How the FCC is Dominated by the Industry It Presumably Regulates, says it quite well. Money, and lots of it, has played a part in this cover-up. CTIA, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint spent roughly $45 million lobbying in 2013. As a result, consumer safety and health have been overlooked. The wireless industry has been allowed to grow unchecked and virtually unregulated, with fundamental questions on public health routinely ignored. After my husband's recovery, my family and I were on many TV shows. And with that, the phone calls started. We became ground zero for people who had been affected by wireless radiation, cell phones, cell towers, Wi-Fi. And I have to say, and I'm being honest here, that not a week goes by where I don't get another phone call from a parent whose child is 10 years old and has a brain tumor, and they have a cell tower on the school campus. And there's no other reason that this child would have this tumor, and other children in the school have cancer also. Or from the parent of a 30-year-old who spent hours a night on his phone at college, who died at 30, but in college talked on his cell phone to his girlfriend for hours nightly. I have attended many funerals in the past 8 or 9 years, and it is just devastating to me to see small children walking behind their parents' caskets, and sadly, parents burying their children. So my colleagues and I are especially concerned about children, and we're shocked that our government is allowing this industry to behave as they are. They're following the tobacco playbook: addict them, lie to them, war game the science, make a lot of money, and leave the mess for the next generation. Well, I want to thank all of you for being here, because we are not leaving the mess for the next generation. We're trying to clean it up. Thank you. So my son and I started the California Brain Tumor Association along with Environmental Health Trust. We embarked on attempting to, and EWG also, we attempted to take cell phone right-to-know legislation across the nation, which means posting the information that is hidden in the phone or in the manual that the FCC actually requires but nobody knows about, and putting it at the point of sale. Now that doesn't seem like it should be that difficult. However, it is, because the industry, when they hear that a city, even a small city, is considering this, they immediately send out a letter threatening a lawsuit. And they follow through with that threat. They did this in San Francisco, and sadly, San Francisco repealed their law after 4 years. Cities and states from Maine to Hawaii have actually worked on this. So we do have some good legislators at the local and state level who get it, and they want to do something about this. And I do have some good news to share with you about that in a minute. There was a very sad display of corruption in California recently. It's actually started about 7 years ago. I have a friend that was an epidemiologist for the California Department of Health, and he told me that they had done their own research and they absolutely knew that cell phones were causing brain tumors. And he said that they were going to issue a document called Cell Phones and Health to the public. This was 7 years ago. I would call him every 3 months and say, where is it? Why haven't we seen it yet? Oh, it's sitting on so-and-so's desk at Health and Human Services. It's going to the governor. All kinds of excuses. Well, after about 3 years of excuses, I let my colleague, Dr. Joel Moskowitz, UC Berkeley School of Public Health, who's been terrific on this issue, I called him and I said, Joel, I got to tell you about this. And he filed a Public Records Act, and they would not give him any information about this. And he also got phone calls from people at the California Department of Public Health and Health and Human Services saying, Joel, you don't know what you're getting into. Stop. Go away. Don't do this. Well, Joel didn't stop, and he sued the California Department of Public Health, and he won just recently. And the nerve of this industry, the attorneys representing, well, actually the nerve of our government in this and industry, the attorneys, the Attorney General Office represented the California Department of Public Health. They said that the reason that it wasn't released was, number one, it would cause chaos among the public. Number two, it would harm the industry. Number three, that the CDC had already issued warnings, so they didn't have to. That's partially true. The CDC did, but Theo's going to tell you more about that. They were retracted 10 weeks later. Anyhow, Joel won, but the sad part is that it only had to be released to him. But media did pick up on it, and we're using this document when we lobby and we try to get things changed. So Um, so as you can see, the corruption and collusion keep things like this document from seeing the light of day. Media is not always covering this appropriately. Industry is wargaming the science. So the public really doesn't know, and that's why I'm thankful that you people are here today to help us spread the word. I do remain hopeful, though. We had 2 major victories within the last week, and I'm really thrilled about it. I had heard Harvard professor Lawrence Lessig give a speech in which he stated that he would take on pro bono any city or state who wanted to do the cell phone right to know, because he's a constitutional law professor. He was furious that this industry, the telecom industry, is hiding behind the First Amendment, saying they don't want the information at the point of sale because it's forcing the retailers to compel speech they don't want heard. So it's in the manuals, but they don't want it seen or heard at the point of sale. So anyhow, I called him and I said, "Are you serious? You'll really do this pro bono?" He said, I got an email back actually. He said, "Absolutely." So I went back to Berkeley where they had wanted to do it. Max Anderson was the city council person then. I said, "Max, you ready to do it?" He said, "Absolutely." So we did get the cell phone right to know passed and implemented in Berkeley. When you go into a store there, you'll see the warning at the point of sale. Thank you. It was with the help of a lot of people and a lot of people that have come before us. And the industry sued, of course. And they hired Theodore Olson, past Solicitor General under Bush. So they hired the top guns. And we had Larry Lessig, which was great. He was running for president at the time, and he came in to defend Berkeley. We won in district court. We won in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And the industry, about 6 months ago, appealed again for an en banc hearing, and just last Friday they were refused. It was rejected by the federal courts. They will not hear it. So now the only thing left is for the telecom industry to bring it right here to the Supreme Court, and Lessig is ready for that if it happens. But maybe, just maybe, the Supreme Court won't even hear it. And the beauty of this is that we want to take this across the nation, just like the laws for secondhand smoke. This is where it needs to start at local government. So not only did we have that victory, but we had one other that I want to tell you about. And the beauty of this is that the industry didn't prevail with the federal judges. They didn't infiltrate our judicial system, which I really found brought me some optimism. So we had another victory at midnight 2 nights ago, actually 3 a.m. here, and I was up waiting. In California, Telecom was able to introduce a law called SB 649, which basically gave free rein to Telecom to place cellular facilities in the public rights-of-way. And it took away city and county authority and our voices. Now when a cell phone tower is going to go near your school or near your homes, you're able to talk about it. I know not about health, but you're able to talk about it and fight it. This took away our rights. They were introducing 5G, which would mean that we were going to have equipment every 2 to 5 homes. It was an outrageous bill. Sadly, it passed the Senate and the Assembly, but not with as many votes as we thought it would. Telecom has a lot of influence in California. They spent something like $4 million on legislators in the last election, so you understand why this happened. But Governor Jerry Brown vetoed the bill at midnight, October 15th. So we're thrilled because he basically told industry, you're not going to do this in our state. They probably will come back with a different bill, and we'll be ready to fight it again. But again, industry was shot down. They just didn't, have an easy path. So I'm happy about that. So, also another thing you should know is that firefighters were exempt in SB 649 because they knew of the health risks. So it was pretty outrageous that they weren't concerned about our children, but they were concerned about our first responders, which they should be. So it was interesting, though. I headed a group Camilla mentioned called the California Alliance for Safer Technology. And that's what we need to do. We all need to come together and work together. Everybody did their own little thing, but it all jived. We orchestrated it well. So while I am happy with the 2 victories, I still realize that we're a long way from winning this war. And the American public doesn't even know, for the most part, that there is this war going on. They're all addicted, and I'm not against technology. I still use a cell phone, but I know how to use it as safely as possible. Fiber optics is the answer. But I do hope that you will bring others in to help us with the momentum of the 2 victories that we just had, and that we will move forward, and that we will make changes. We will raise awareness. Hopefully media will come around and help us raise awareness, filmmakers. So I want to thank you all for being here today. And let's pray that we can put an end to this travesty that's affecting our children and grandchildren. I wanted to show you one thing before I leave, before I shut up. This is a meter. Just because wireless radiation is invisible and we can't taste it or smell it doesn't mean it's not there. I don't think they would spray DDT, a WHO class 2B carcinogen, on our children all day, but they're spraying this on our children in school all day. And as you can hear, we're in about the mid-range here. But if you were standing in a classroom, it would be all the way at the top, and this needs to stop.